Today's objective, we're going to talk about standard form. We've been discussing it a little bit, but now we're going to apply some more things on some ways that we can use it. Standard form of a linear equation. Let's go over this definition. An equation written into the form ax plus by equals c, where a, b, and c are all real numbers, and a and b both cannot be zeros. And a, of course, is going to be greater or equal to 0. So Vic number 1, the x and the y-intercepts can be found very quickly from standard form and can be used to create graphs. Some people call it the cover-up method, so you'll get to practice that a lot as well on what Vic number 1 is talking about. Alright, so finding x and y-intercepts. First example, 3x plus 4y equals 8. Where 3x, okay, so our first step here is to find the x-intercept. We're going to plug 0 in for y. So here's my y, so it has a coefficient of 4. So when I multiply those two together, it goes away, it becomes 0, okay? So I get 3x equals 8. Now, notice I mentioned the cover-up method. So if I cover that 4y up, notice what I have. I have 3x equals 8, which is what I have right here. So the cover-up method is using where you plug in 0 for y when you're finding the x-intercept, okay? So when you're finding the x-intercept, you are going to cover up the variable you don't want. So you want to see the intercept that you're going to find, okay? So here, let's finish this out. 3 divided by 3, because we always divide by that coefficient, so it is 8/3. So my x-intercept is 8/3. And of course, in ordered pair form, this is what that looks like. And notice, this is y. We plugged a 0 in for y, because that's how it looks in ordered pair form. Now, for the y-intercept, we're going to do the total opposite, okay? So I want to see the y variable, and notice I have 4y equals 8. So looking at how it looks like algebraically, we plug in 0 for the x. That's what it tells me to find the y-intercept. So this term goes to 0. So 4y equals 8. I divide by my coefficient, and so the coefficient is 4. 8 divided by 4 is positive 2. And notice here, in ordered pair form. So here is the reason why, because remember, these are intercepts. So the other variable is 0 when, as far as that point being on that axis. All right, example number 2. I have 4x minus 9y equals negative 12. So if I'm going to solve for the x-intercept, notice I have 4x equals negative 12. So I can see that using mental math. I can see, oh, I'm going to divide by 4. X is negative 3. Okay? So let's go through the algebraic part. And so that term does go away. I am going to divide by 4, and I can see that x is negative 3. Okay? Now, let's go through and solve for the y-intercept. Again, I have negative 9y equals negative 12. So I'm going to divide by that negative 9. And so when I do that, I get positive 12 divided by 9, which is positive 4/3. Okay? All right. Now, here we're going to use our x and y intercepts to graph. Because remember, I always want you to have a couple points, but at least these 2 points on the coordinate plane help us to find where our line is at. So our first one, 2x plus 3y equals 12. Well, let's find our x-intercept first. So I can see I have 2x equals 12. X is positive 6. That is my x-intercept. So that first point I plotted here. 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is definitely where 6 comma 0 is at, the x-intercept. Then I have the y-intercept. Remember, we're going to cover up the other variable. I should see my y variable sitting there since I'm solving for the y-intercept. Okay, so 3y equals 12. Divide by 3, your coefficient, y is positive 4. And there's my y-intercept. I definitely can graph that really quickly. Okay? Number 2, 5x plus 2y equals negative 10. Now, if we're solving for the x-intercept, covering up the y, 5x equals negative 10. Divide by 5. Negative 10 divided by 5. X is negative 2. There's my x-intercept. And you can see negative 2 here. All right. Now, for my y-intercept, I want to cover up the x term. I see 2y equals negative 10. Divide by 2. Negative 10 divided by 2 is definitely negative 5. And here is my y-intercept for that term. All right. Now, graphing horizontal and vertical lines. Maybe this will help a little bit from the practice that we've been doing in class. So I'm going to graph y equals negative 3. First things first, we need to make sure that we put it in standard form. Maybe this will help you a little bit on it. So I have y equals negative 3. You notice that we do not see an x term. So that tells me that I have 0x. Okay, my m is 0. And so I can see this and I can read this as, for every x value, my y is negative 3. So let's talk about some points. If my x value is positive 2, well, what are those ordered pairs? Well, if my x is 2, my y is negative 3. If my x is 0, what is my y? Negative 3. If my x is negative 2, what's my y? Negative 3. So again, I can think of it here. Well, 2 comma negative 3, here's my 2 on the x-axis. Here is that point, right? 0, negative 3, well, that's my y-intercept. That's my b. Negative 2, that's here. That is that point, 2 comma negative 3. So for every x value, I can choose any x. My y is negative 3. Those types of form of equations written in this format are always horizontal lines. And we know that those slopes are 0. These are functions. Okay? Let's talk about vertical lines. X. Here is my x term. So we know that the slope is going to be a little different. So x equals positive 2. When I write that in standard form, I can see here that my y is definitely going to be 0. And so my x has an understood coefficient of a 1. So for every y value, my x is positive 2. All right? And here is that ordered pair of 2 comma 0. Now, let's go about how to think about this. So it says for every y value, x is 2. So if y is positive 2, what is x? Positive 2. If y is positive, let's say 0, what is my x? 2. If y is 1, what is my x? 2. So let's find, oh, I already did that one. That one right there. Let's do another one. If y is 3, what is my x value? 2. So let's find those points in here and make sure that we are on that line. So for this one, 2 and 3 on the y-axis is right here. 2 comma 1, here's 1 on the y, here's 2 on the x. 2 comma 2 is right here. And then if I went negative y's, I would definitely find points down here. Okay?